This is the Baseload. Sorting the facts from the fiction. Discover the truth about solar power, renewables, and the grid on the Baseload, your solar-powered podcast series.
Welcome to the Baseload, your solar-powered podcast series. This is our second episode of the Baseload, and we're going to dive right in and open Pandora's box and discuss the slightly contentious issue of house batteries. When you read an ad for property in the future, will it say something like 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and batteries not included? To shed some light on this vexing question and to bring you up to speed with everything to do with solar power, renewable energy, and the grid today, we have resident expert Michael Tierney in the studio. Michael is currently teaching the electrical trade certificate at TAFE here in Sydney and is a licensed solar installer and a house battery aficionado. Welcome to the Baseload, Michael Tierney.
Hi, Troy.
So, Michael, in this discussion, we will touch on the reasons for adopting storage in the form of house batteries, the basic components, the most common storage technologies and some of their more esoteric cousins, and what they're likely to cost, and installation and all that sort of stuff. But for now, Michael, house batteries. Why put an energy storage system in a domestic residence?
Because, Troy, you can use that power that you're producing during the day from your solar panels, store it, and then use it later on when there is no solar generation. And the other option, of course, is that you can use cheaper electricity that's at night time, store it in your battery, and then use it later when power is more expensive.
Yeah. So why is this more potentially advantageous than just being hooked up to the grid, for example?
Well, the grid, of course, has to provide power throughout the whole day, and there's different peaks and troughs in that demand. So what happens is that they have to charge different rates for the different times of the day. There's a thing called time of use, and they have a shoulder time, a peak time, and an off-peak time.
Yeah, of course, everyone knows off-peak electricity and all the rest of it.
Absolutely. I mean, for many, many years, and many people will be familiar with what we have as off-peak hot water. This, of course, is effectively an energy storage system. So you're taking the energy at night time when there's a low demand, but they've got to keep these generators running. It's just the nature of them.
Well, it's the same as solar hot water, right? I mean, solar hot water is well established, but it doesn't do the whole thing, does it? I mean, sometimes you have to add a little bit more heating to your water. Is that right with solar hot water, or does solar hot water really cover the whole box and dice? Yeah,
well, it all depends on what the type of conditions are for the weather and things. But if you think of that as a solar collector, which is collecting the energy, converting it to heat in the water, and then it's being stored inside that tank.
An insulated tank.
And, of course, the better insulated it is, the more it will retain that heat.
So it's a big thermos, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. A big thermos would probably be the best.
Yeah. So back to the house batteries. Can we break it down even further for our listeners? What are the components of a battery storage system in a domestic setting?
Well, currently it's basically a box bolted onto your wall or mounted onto the ground with batteries of some sort of different technologies, controlled by a computer effectively, and charged either via solar panels directly or through a charger, which would happen if you used it at night time and charged from the grid. And it usually contains an inverter inside, so you can convert that battery DC energy
back
into
to 240 volts at
something
50
that
hertz.
you can use in your house. Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, there's different models and some self-contained units that have everything required inside them, and some are requiring other bits and pieces to be connected to them.
Okay, so what sort of bits and pieces are we talking about there?
We're talking about, well, you have to first of all be able to, you're talking about 2 different types of power, DC and AC. AC is what we have running our house, and DC is what basically runs your car. There's some differences in that, but what we do need to know is that you have to be able to convert those two back and forth in order to have what would be useful power for the average sort of house.
So just very simply for our listeners that may not really understand it, everyone knows the term AC/DC, but just very quickly, what is the difference there?
Well, it all started off, I suppose, with Tesla and Edison.
Mm-hmm. And Bon Scott.
And Bon Scott. That's exactly right.
He was later, though.
A little later,
Yeah.
But that's how we know AC/DC probably more than any other thing.
That's right.
And what happened was Tesla, and who they've named the car and the battery thing for houses and things from, he found that AC power was very easy to raise its voltage and lower its voltage, which allowed us to transport electricity over very long distances. Mm-hmm. Whereas DC, it's very difficult to do that, at least especially back then. And so you need large cables, or you had to have power generation very, very close to the loads, very localized. Mm-hmm. And
still the same now. So you're essentially what comes off the solar panel, in my understanding, is a DC current that is then inverted into AC for domestic use.
That's the way we're doing it, yeah.
Yeah.
But this might change a little in the future because DC has some very good efficiencies in it. But for what we've got now, it's exactly what we have to do. We've got to put it back into something that you can just go to your local shop and buy things very cheaply and very easily.
Now, but back to the definition between alternating current and direct current. My understanding is alternating current is travelling in both directions, and direct current is just travelling in one direction. Is that a very simplified kind of version of it?
An AC current's on a wave that rises to a peak positive type of, and then back down to the opposite in negative.
Okay.
So that's where you sort of think that alternating, it's sort of like going back and forth.
Right. Cycling in a wave, thus 50 hertz.
Yeah, it's a frequency.
It's a frequency, right.
And this allows us to basically create magnetic fields on transformers, and then we can raise and lower that very, 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 very easily. I mean, literally with a bit of copper wound around a core.
Yeah, right. And direct current, why is that different?
Yeah, it's not so easy because it's not so easy to transform. Because it doesn't have that wave format, that frequency, it's not as easy to transform. On the other hand, of course, AC has other issues, and it would take some years of study, I suppose, to get your heads right around it.
So AC is a wave. DC is what then? How do you describe direct current?
Yeah, well, it has a potential that doesn't change. So the positive will be always at its positive potential.
Right.
And the neutral is usually at what we'd reference to be zero.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be necessarily, but there's a difference in potential.
Right.
And it stays at that potential.
All right. And so potential is the voltage?
Yeah.
So you measure the potential is called voltage. So 9 volts, that's the potential energy that comes out of a 9-volt rail or off a 9-volt battery.
Absolutely. So between your battery and your car, in general, it has 12 volts, for example. And that's the potential difference between those two terminals on top of the battery. So why we have to talk about DC? Because batteries store DC, not AC.
Yeah.
Or the conversions turn out to be in a DC. So that's where we're at. And the same as solar panels, they also produce a DC.
A direct current.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Earlier this year, we've had a cyclone, we've had mass flooding on the eastern seaboard, and for various reasons, we've had widespread power outages. Now, my question is, would house batteries have been a help or a hindrance in these scenarios?
It's hard to say, depending on how they're actually set up. So there's different formats of the way you can set a battery up. So yes, of course, if you're in a place where there's a storm and the power lines are gone and you've got a house battery which is set up to supply power, regardless of whether there's a grid present or not, well, then you would probably have power.
At least some basic power, you could turn on the lights and maybe boil a kettle.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it depends how long you need that power to last for. So, if you know the power's only going to be out for a couple of hours, well, you can do what you like, basically. But if you don't know how long that power's going to be out for, you might want to ration it just down to your refrigerator so you don't lose all of your valuable
all the food in the freezer and all the rest of it.
And that'd probably be the first priority, I'd say. And then some lighting And as we said in the last episode, LED lighting is so efficient.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So, I mean, obviously, I guess it is a battery, and eventually it will run down. How long would the average battery last? I mean, I know it's dependent on usage, but ballpark, if your power was out for a couple of days, could it keep the lights on for that amount of time?
Well, your fridge is probably going to use 1.5 kilowatt hours a day of energy for ones that use about 700 kilowatt hours a year or something like that. Mm-hmm. Might have different stories.
Is that an average one, or is that a very good energy saver kind of rate?
Yeah, it's the one that I've got anyway. Yeah, okay. I suppose it's probably energy
saver. So it's pretty good, yeah.
And we have lights, of course, as we discussed, you know, that you can have hundreds of lights for the same amount of energy.
Because of the wonderful light-emitting diode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that in that case there, I mean, it's going to last for a few days without a doubt, 3-4 days probably.
So it would definitely be advantageous in an emergency situation or a power outage to have a battery. It's straight logic. There's no magic curtain with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it depends on how you got them set up. I mean, some of them rely on having the grid present. So if the grid goes, it's really quite irrelevant whether you've got battery storage or not.
Okay.
It won't be able to run. And there's reasons for that.
Yeah. How would that work? Well, what's the point of having a battery if it doesn't work when the energy's switched off?
Well, you can imagine that all these things are connected by wires, and those wires end up on the street. Whether it's coming to your house or away from it, there's still wires in the street. Now, if the wires were to come down the street, the network might shut down and stop producing power. But if for some reason your system is still producing power, it's going to inject power back up those wires. And that could be a very potentially dangerous situation, especially for workers and electrical workers.
Right, okay.
So we have a technical thing, it's called anti-islanding.
Right.
And that creates a system where if there is no grid present, so there's no power coming from the grid, it must shut down the output of any inverters.
Okay, so the battery may still have charge, but it would shut down as a safety measure.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, cool.
If you had a prolonged sort of outage that was going to go on for some period of time, I mean, you could get someone like an electrician to come and reconfigure that.
Right, and so disconnect it from the grid and keep it running the domestic circuit, for example.
And fed from your solar if you had solar, or from a small generator, which would charge the battery, then you could turn the generator off.
Right.
So it wouldn't have to run continuously, a hybrid type system.
So it's a safety concern primarily, though.
There is, there's a large safety. Well, safety is always our first priority. I mean, in the electrical game, I mean, number one rule is don't kill anyone, don't burn anything, and don't hurt any animals or things like that.
Yeah, cool, obviously, yeah. And that's why, people have to go through, the kind of education that you provide and get those qualifications, and that's why they're enforced stringently.
Absolutely.
Which is super important because, electricity is dangerous stuff.
Yes.
So here on the Baseload, we try and steer away from the political debate as we're very much interested in the technical side of these new power sources and energy sources. But it's hard not to get drawn into the debate a little bit. We had the famous Hazelwood power station close recently, at the time of recording. Now, it was renowned as a big stinky polluter, so that's good that it's gone from that perspective, but you can't help but feel for the poor people that have lost their jobs. Michael, what are your thoughts on transitional options for people moving out of the coal power business or out of those kind of old-fashioned businesses? Are there opportunities for new jobs in the renewable side of the equation?
We talk about the news and politicians and all that in regards to loss of jobs and how does that actually affect one individual? Now, if someone, you can easily say, but we're creating so many new jobs. And from what I heard last, we have close to Australia's entire workforce in number, like close to 10 million people, now in the renewable energy sector.
Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. And increasing by close to 500,000 per year worldwide, of course.
10 million people employed in the renewable sector.
Yes.
Globally.
Globally.
Right, I was going to say it's not in Australia.
I wish.
Okay. So globally, I guess that's still a relatively small number, but it's still 10 million people.
Yes.
So
Well,
that's
if you had a
interesting.
company employing 10 million people, I think you'd be, quite a big business. You know
So,
what I mean?
so yeah, well, absolutely. So where are the jobs? I mean, obviously, not everybody is a qualified electrician. A lot of those blokes that worked at the people that worked at Hazelwood, they wouldn't have all been qualified electricians. So, where are the job opportunities? Do you
Well,
think?
that's my point. I mean, for a person maybe that's working at Hazelwood who's doing some job which is never going to be able to be replaced by a new industry. These industries will just walk away. I mean, it's like if you worked in an industry 100 odd years ago, putting shoes on horses. I mean, this would, you're not really going to have a lot of opportunities into the future. So we've got these new jobs coming, but who's actually skilled to do these new sorts of jobs? And also with the car industry in Australia, you'd see also that they've shut down basically all manufacturing. And it's not just the jobs that are being lost in the actual manufacturing plants, all those other industries around it. Down to your little takeaway food shop.
Well, that's right. The corner tuck shop. So where are the opportunities with renewable energy? Where are the actual jobs? Are there jobs in sales, manufacturing? In your opinion, where could people look? And if you're one of our listeners now and you're working in one of those older fields and you're thinking that maybe there is a sunset on that industry, where would you encourage people to look for fresh employ and retraining?
Well, I think everyone has to look at what skill sets they already have and build on those. So as I was saying with the car thing, there's so many other industries that are affected. The same thing, of course, happens in reverse. So for an example, with the big wind turbines that they have, what happened is that a job opportunity started to open up for panel beaters.
Right.
So all of a sudden they needed panel beaters to repair the blades.
Oh, okay.
So It's just things like this. And I mean, we probably can't even think of what new jobs are going to present themselves. But
well, that's the thing is there's jobs of the future that we just don't know about yet. I mean, I was talking about, jobs that have gone. My great-grandfather was a telegraph operator at Central Station and very, very good at that. But, Morse code is now a skill that is only used by, a very, very small group of people. And that was a high-tech job, It's very easy to imagine that there will be all these new kind of positions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, sales or, marketing these things, the popularity of these things.
Well, telecommunications is a really good example. I mean, we've now got automated exchanges. A lot of people are not in those telecommunications type of exchanges anymore. Who has a landline these days? I mean,
well, that's right. With this power station closure, how does that affect the grid? Because they're saying it's 5% of the nation's power supply and 25% of Victoria's power supply. Should our listeners in Victoria be looking closely at solar panels and batteries? What's the effect on the grid?
Well, I tell you who is looking closely at solar panels, and that is the owners of the Hazelwood Power Station.
Right.
So don't quote me exactly, but I did read an email that I got a few months ago now, and they were not going to reinvest into coal. They are calling for tenders to reinvest it to large-scale solar.
Well, that can only be an intelligent thing to do in the current climate. So, okay.
It's cheap.
Right.
I mean, you've got a power station. How many moving parts are in a power station?
A lot.
And you've got solar panels, which zero moving parts. Once you install them, they're pretty well.
They're up and running.
Very little to do.
And what's the lifespan of a solar panel?
Typically, they're warranted well and truly for 20 odd years, as in their outputs. But 20, 25 years, and it all just becomes like anything. I mean, your car, you might sell it even though it's still working because the cost benefits.
Or there might be improvements, or
there definitely will be improvements.
We may end up with a dinner plate-sized solar panel that can power a suburb.
Absolutely.
One day. Just before we go to a little break, what do our listeners need to understand before committing to battery storage for the home? Are there any tips?
Yeah, I think the first thing we have to do is to clearly understand how much power we're using and how we're going to use that power. So, are we going to be using power when it's expensive during that peak part of time? Or are we going to be using all the power in the middle of the night or during the day? So we really got to look at how we use our power, when we use it, and how much we need. And that's every single individual has to work that out quite for themselves.
Right, okay, so that's the primary concern. Today on the Baseload, we're discussing house batteries, like the much publicised Tesla Powerwall. But first, we're just going to have a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment.
This is the Baseload. Sorting the facts from the fiction. Discover the truth about solar power, renewables, and the grid on the Baseload, your solar-powered podcast series.
Welcome back to the Baseload. Having covered the basics, let's move on to the practical considerations of installation. This clearly, as we've stated before, it's not a DIY job unless you're a licensed electrician. What do our listeners need to know about having a battery system installed, Michael?
It's similar, I suppose, to what I was saying about solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's good to find someone who's local, someone who's actually doing the job or is heavily involved in a company that is doing it.
Mm-hmm. So a bit of track record is always good.
I think so, yeah. And especially in this beginning sort of real take-up, because we're not so aware of, and part of the reason why we're actually doing this show is because people are not actually that aware. So it is going to take time. So it's really good to call in on those local experts.
Yeah.
And and have a discussion and have some bills or electricity bills for at least 12 months is a really good idea. Prepared, ready to go.
Right.
Get a really good idea on that. Get them in. Try to do your best. There's some good government websites about how you can, federal government websites and state government websites about how you can improve your efficiency in the home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'd take all that up and be prepared and get in touch with someone local who really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And make sure they're accredited and licensed and all the other things as well.
Right. So common sense, basically. Do a little bit of research, maybe compare a couple of prices, and then make an informed choice. I know we've mentioned different battery types, but can you give us an overview of the full suite of batteries currently available in the marketplace? Because there's not just Tesla batteries, are there? There's a lot of different players in the battery market, and indeed lots of different sorts of batteries. Is that right?
There is lots of different sorts of batteries. And, of course, there's not just Tesla, although they've done a very good job of
awareness.
Actually, Tesla, in the first 2 weeks of announcing their Powerwall, took, I think, was it $400 million worth of pre-order sales or something to that effect?
Right.
It was a lot of money anyway, and that's the interest in it. But there's other companies like BYD and there's LG, LG Chem, and they're all playing around in the lithium type of area. There's different types of lithium technology. Right. And I don't know that it would be helpful to discuss them all. But
no, not from a technical point of view, but from an overview. I mean, do nickel-cadmium batteries feature at all? Are they available for house batteries? The old lead-acid battery, Hollifer Marshall kind of battery.
Yeah.
They're the only kind of battery types that I know of, ever ready.
Yes, exactly right.
Duracells.
If you've got enough Duracells, you could probably run your house off it.
Yeah, right. But it's going to be costly to replace them all the time.
Absolutely. And, so those nickel-cadmium, they do have nickel-cadmium batteries, but they're not as popular. Basically, the good old lead-acid battery, and I've installed many, many systems on properties which have to only rely on solar and battery storage.
So rural properties.
Rural properties
or
usually.
Semi-rural or hobby farm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And we've been using deep cycle lead-acid batteries.
Right.
And they've been around for well over 100 years. And they're a very tried and true sort of storage system for energy.
But has that technology advanced as much as other areas, or is the lead-acid battery still pretty much a standard unit?
Well, everything has a different sort of quality. So the lead-acid batteries, they have made some improvements, as in there's a eco-cult sort of technology, which is a capacitor type included with a battery, lead-acid battery.
Right.
That was developed by the CSIRO, basically.
Okay.
And that's good because it actually provides this different sort of depth of discharging cycle. The problem with batteries is you've got the energy density, so how much energy they can actually store inside them, hold them, and the discharge. So why lithium is so popular, and not just for also your hand tools, for your phone, for all these things, is because they've got this sort of a discharge curve which keeps the voltage and everything very flat and
consistent.
And then it drops off rapidly towards the end.
Okay.
And they also have an ability in general to discharge larger amounts of current at one time.
Okay.
They're lighter, they're smaller, and now they're rapidly coming down in their cost as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, interesting. So there are different sorts of batteries: lithium, lead acid, NiCads, and probably a few different sorts. So again, get Google and do some research. Is that what you recommend our listeners do?
Yeah, to actually look at the technologies and things. I think you probably start by finding out what those people that actually can install the stuff into your house have on offer, and then do your due diligence.
Right.
Think about, people that have different ideas about why they're going to buy something. They might look at the recycling abilities of those batteries later on, what's going to happen to these at their end of life.
Right.
Whether that type of technology has got an increased risk of fire, or do they need a different type of battery management system?
And do we take into account the carbon footprint in manufacture?
I think always you should do that if you're conscious of that. And
what's the story there with lithium batteries? For example, do they create a lot of fossil fuel, or are they as bad as does it take a coal power station to make one lithium battery?
No, I don't think so.
The equivalent of, or you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's why that Tesla is dropping the prices, is because they're actually taking a lot of that, mining it in Australia or Argentina or Chile or something like that, then sending it to China to get it refined, then sending it to Japan to make it into a battery, then sending it to the States to put it into a car or Powerwall, then sending it back to Australia where it all came from originally.
Right. So
there's a job opportunity for you, by the way.
Yeah, there's a job. We should be completely vertically integrating the production of batteries from Australia.
Absolutely.
To save all those crazy transport costs.
And cars. Because the cars of the future, and not that, actually now and going forward, are basically computers on wheels.
Yeah. Now, this idea of incorporating certain energy-saving strategies in your home, what does it all add up to in terms of pricing compared to your standard retail situation with these batteries?
As in the price of
the price of batteries, yeah. Well, the pricing, the whole pricing equation. Obviously, incorporating economical energy strategies when you we've discussed LED batteries and power rated devices and fridges and all the rest of it. How does it all stack up?
Yeah, so once of course you've reduced all of your excess, your waste, and then you've got a better position of how much energy you need. The way that they're sort of going in this market is they've got a price as per kilowatt hour for that battery. So they're ranging from around about 19 cents a kilowatt hour up until about $1.24. There's other technologies. We see lithium and lead acid, but there's also these seawater type batteries. There's all sorts of different. There's many different types of technologies, but the ones that are actually there and probably ready to go and comparable are those lithiums at 19, 21 cents, and that's a warranted sort of price. So that's actually warranted at that price, and it works off the amount of discharges and recharges. So the amount of times you're actually filling it up and emptying it.
Okay, interesting. So at the end, do we save any money?
Oh, you'll definitely probably save money.
Right.
The price of power is increasing way above the CPI figures.
Right.
And why is that? I'm not 100% sure of why that is. There's so many different discussions.
Yeah, and that's probably at the political end of the spectrum to do with market forces and all the rest of it.
I think it's a lot to do with politics.
Yeah. So we'll just give that a swerve. All right, so this is great stuff, and I trust this has shed some light on the question of house batteries for you. Over the coming weeks on the Baseload, we will go into even more detail on these topics as we investigate this exciting evolution in the way we use, market and generate power for our homes and businesses. So please send us an email to info@thebaseload.com and we will respond to your inquiries and may even feature your question on the show.
This is The Baseload. Sorting the facts from the fiction. Discover the truth about solar power, renewables, and the grid on The Baseload, your solar power podcast series.
Now, before we go, we said we were going to dispel some of the myths about free energy machines and some of the wacky stuff we hear about online, Michael. This Keshe-Magrav plasma energy coil seems to have as many YouTube videos showing it working as there are videos proving it to be a fake. I saw one with a German hippie running his stereo in a fridge, and then another guy who builds the whole thing step by step, and it failed abysmally. What are your thoughts on the plasma energy system of Keshe-Magrav?
I have to say that when I looked at some of the videos and watching it all happen, I started to, doubt right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. But, of course, this is probably the interesting, exciting thing to do, is to try to actually build one and see what happens.
Right.
But my prediction is, of course, that it won't work.
Right. So what we're going to do here at the Baseload is we are going to build one of these. There's lots of videos online with people doing it, and at the end they're plugging in, a light bulb and it's working. And as we say, there's as many videos of people going, well, there it is. It's just sitting there. It's a bunch of coiled wires, and it's not doing anything. So we will prove definitively, once and for all, whether the Keshe-Magrav plasma energy coil system actually generates a passive current.
Yeah, and prove that the Germans do have hippies and that they do believe that you can get free energy from this device.
Right, yes. So. All right, great. So that's it for episode 2 of The Baseload. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Troy.
And if you'd like a copy of our free solar power guide, just go to thebaseload.com and follow the prompts, and we will send it to you absolutely free. In it, you will find loads of quality technical information explained in an easy-to-understand format. Or check us out on The Baseload on YouTube or Facebook, where all of our information will be available 24/7, absolutely free of charge. That's it from us at The Baseload this week, and more power to you.
This is The Baseload. Sorting the facts from the fiction. Discover the truth about solar power, renewables, and the grid on The Baseload, your solar power podcast series.